Hey guys, Keelie Reason here, owner of Love Hope Adventure, where I talk about the marriage, relationship, intimacy of marriage, and how you can go deeper with your spouse. And today it's just a little bit of a meet and greet. There's a lot of new people here on the YouTube channel, and I'm so glad that you're here. And if you have found me because YouTube recommended a video and you're like, why? I don't know either. We don't know what YouTube is doing these days. But I did want to give a little introduction about myself because a lot of people who've come to the channel, they only know me for like one or two videos that have been getting pushed, but not much beyond that. So, I am definitely like an OG YouTuber. Long before people were influencers and trying to do this as full-time jobs and creators in quite the way that you see today. And so sometimes I get some comments on my videos that make it sound like I'm only showing up here doing this stuff for the clicks, for the views, for the whatever. Let me just be a little transparent here. So just because people are very interested in sex does not mean that advertisers want their ads showing up on content regarding sex. So a lot of my videos, particularly my most trafficked videos, actually can't be monetized. And I started Love Hoop Adventure as a blog. I didn't even start out on YouTube about in 2013. So I can't even do the math right now of how many years ago that was. But I started this blog out because I have a passion for writing, but also for married couples. And so I've been married for almost 22 years, and my husband and I started dating when we were 16. And because we were so young when we started dating, we were very intentional about our relationship. And we got married when we were 21. So we had a lot of years where we did not have sex. We did not live together. We were virgins when we got married. We abstained from those things because we wanted to be that virgins when we got married, but we invested in our relationship. And we had a lot of good communication habits that we formed because of that. Because when you're not being physical with someone, you get very good at expressing your emotions and communicating through words and actions and other things that aren't physical. And so we were really intentional about our relationship and about developing a good friendship. And when we got married, I would say that we were really prepared, but even as prepared as we were for marriage, even as prepared as we were for being in a long-term relationship, it's still hard, right? Being in a long-term relationship of any kind is so difficult. And even though we came into it with a lot of intentionality, people in our lives, my parents, people in our church, mentors who were there for us, who were teaching us and coaching us along the way, we are like any couple and we experienced issues. So when I started Love Up Adventure, originally it was a relationship blog. I was all about the marriage relationship and relationship with your children, predominantly, just in general, relationships with husband and wife and kids. Well, I feel like there's no way to talk about the marriage relationship or getting in a better relationship with your spouse without addressing sex, because that is something that distinguishes your relationship with your spouse than your relationship with anyone else. I mean, you can have emotional closeness and connection with other people and not be married to them. There are things that you can do with other relationships, but sex is very specific to the marriage relationship. Well, that content started taking off because there wasn't a lot of content out there that answered real questions from a biblical perspective about sex. And a lot of people have gotten burned by the church or teachings about sex in, in certain religious cultures. And we didn't experience that. We had very good teaching about sex and expectations about that leading up to marriage because of the intentionality of the people around us. And because that content became so popular, And that's what people seem to resonate with the most. Love Food Adventure turned more into a sexual intimacy blog, and my YouTube videos, if you look back at my way back when I was doing Periscope, what is that? Oh, like that was like the original live stream. And I used to upload all of those. I talked about all kinds of stuff on my Periscopes. But as my audience asked more and more questions about sexual intimacy, I've really honed my content on that. And so, where do the questions come from every week? Well, it comes from you guys. It comes from people who either found me on the blog, they follow me on the newsletter, they found me here on YouTube. I have a lot more people telling me they found me on YouTube now. I used to have a lot of people tell me that they found my blog, but a lot more people are telling me about YouTube. For a little while, Periscope was a big place where I got a lot of people following me. So every week, people fill out my anonymous questions form and they ask their questions. Now, I answered those questions in the newsletter. Some of the questions I answer here on YouTube, but not all of them. And the reason for that is that sometimes people are asking questions about things I've already answered. So in that newsletter, I'm gonna like put links to any videos I've created or any blogs I've written. Remember, I've been doing this since 2013. I have answered and covered almost every question that I get. Now, sometimes I get some pretty specific questions like, this is what's happening in my relationship. What are your thoughts? What should I do? Whatever. It's not like super, well, here's some tips to have more fun in the bedroom or something. Sometimes they're very specific. A lot of times I answered those in the newsletter. I tend to answer questions on YouTube that I would say are a little bit broader and a little bit more evergreen. Like they're something that a broader audience may get value from. But in the newsletter, I try to be as personal as possible. And so when I am putting these videos out here on YouTube for everyone, I hope that people are getting value from it. But at the end of the day, I make these videos for one person. And that is the person that filled out that form for the question. And I'm super glad that other people are here and drawing value from it and being encouraged by these questions and by the discussions that are in the comments at a lot of times. But it's really important to me that you guys know that, like, I'm not your traditional modern day influencer. I'm not that person that's out here just trying to like come up with the most creative thing to get the clicks or whatever. If you'll notice, I'm a one take girl. I don't edit these videos. You see me cutting that camera on and cutting it off, and I do it in my bedroom or the kitchen or wherever the heck I'm gonna be. I've had people complain about lighting and sound and whatever else, but I want people to feel like the information that I give, the things that I share, is accessible to them. And sometimes sexual intimacy can feel very intimidating to some people. Now, I know not everyone fits in that boat. I would say that a lot of the people who watch YouTube are people that don't necessarily fit in that boat, but they are married to someone who does, someone that is probably less confident. They don't know what to do or what to say in the bedroom, and they might not be as bold in those things. So I want to make the things that I talk about, the way I share, to be as intimidating as possible. I want people to go, okay, this is just a real wife who's been married for 22 years, who has had a lot of conversations with couples, and has insight into what other couples are dealing with. So that's also another important thing to know about my channel, because I do get a lot of people who are asking me, well, what do you do and what's your personal preference and all these things. And as much as I appreciate that, interest, I try to make sure that my answers and my content are coming from a place of gathering information and data from multiple sources. This is stuff that I have read. I have a lot of marriage blog friends who I discuss with. They have their own communities. They have their own groups, whatever. I have people who write into me. I have people who share things with me. I have resources that I look at that are trusted resources. And then, of course, some personal stuff is going to slip in there, right? But not everything I talk about, every question I answer is something that I've done or do or whatever, but I'm not going to disclose that. And there's two big reasons for that. One, I don't think that it's a good idea to share your personal, intimate information out in public regarding things you do with your spouse. Those things, if you shared anything at all, would have to be with your closest friends. Secondly, I don't want to influence somebody else. I get a lot of people who come on here who are probably not satisfied in their marriage or whatever with their sexual intimacy. And they think, well, I wish my spouse was more like you or more open like you or whatever else. And that already happens because I'm just willing to talk about the subject, which, if you know me in real life, you'll know that I am willing to talk about all kinds of things, just that a lot of people might not feel as comfortable with because of the kind of person I am. I'm just the kind of person who can address sensitive topics and have conversations that some people would probably shy away from. But I also want people to know that, you know, they need to make decisions about their own relationship. And it can't be based on the things I'm doing in my relationship, because see, things aren't going to work for you the same way they work for me or someone else over here or someone else over there. Especially in relationships, this is so very personal. And no two people are alike, and no two couples are alike. Now, I will say that in all my years of talking with married couples, I've learned that a lot of times certain types of personalities are attracted to each other. Generally speaking, not always, because there's always exceptions, but generally speaking, you have a person in the relationship who's more extroverted and one who's more introverted. In the way of intimacy, you have one that has a responsive desire and one that has, what is the other desire? I can't think of it right now. Spontaneous desire, which we would say, like, prior to, the last few years, we might say a high drive and a low drive. And listen, all that stuff changes over time anyway, the way that you respond to things and do things. But a lot of times I find that people get married to someone who's kind of opposite from them, but not just sexually, but just in a lot of ways, like personality, the things they do, the things they want to be a part of, what their skills are and talents are. That's pretty common. So there's so much good about that. But then, of course, there's always going to be struggles, right? Because you're not always seeing eye to eye with that person. But it's good in that it keeps you engaged, because you're always learning. Always, if you take on the approach in your relationship that I want to get to know that person better throughout their life changes, as they're changing, as things are getting different, they're seeing the world different, they're having different values, different ideas. I want to get to know that person. And even if you've been married for as long as my husband and I, we are in our 40s and we are still like understanding things about ourselves that we have not previously understood. There are communication habits and patterns and things that we have had in the past and we're working through now. Even this many years down the road. And so that's just a good reminder to you, if you're in a relationship, that you're never going to figure it all out. It's always going to take working it out, figuring out the next thing. You'll have breakthroughs. If you really genuinely try, you'll have breakthroughs in your relationship and in your intimacy. Just keep working at it. And try not to get discouraged if you're not on the same page as your spouse about everything. Instead, work together to solve problems. Position what the problem is, ask them for their help in it, and work together to do that. And so, guys, that's just a little bit about who I am, how I got started, what you can expect out of me. It's not going to be the same thing as a lot of influencers, all right? I'm not going to have big lighting and production and budgets and whatever else. And the Lord has allowed me to make a little bit of money every year through the blog, because I sell products. I sell bedroom games in the shop. And only in the last few months have I made any ad revenue to speak of. I've done this for over a decade. And I'm grateful for any money the blog produces because I spend money. Okay, I spend money on the newsletter systems and on the hosting on that website and keeping it up and all the tools and whatever it takes so that people can purchase my bedroom games. I pay designers and I pay social media people. Like I have assistants that do some of my social media posting for me on Instagram and Facebook and stuff because I'm busy. I don't have time to do that all the time. But so I try to prioritize videos and answering newsletters and updating some of my old blogs to make sure that they're still relevant. So that's what you can expect from me. If you're new here, I'm glad you're here. Drop me a comment below and you can introduce yourself or you can share something you've learned or a question. If you have questions, obviously always fill out my anonymous questions form. Tell me you want a video. And I'll post it there. But if you sign up for the newsletter, then you'll always be alerted to when I've answered the question. I can't get to them immediately. I have a little bit of a backlog most of the time, and I try to clear them out every few weeks. So I'm just always trying to work through that. But you can reach out to me that way as well. Thanks so much for joining me, guys. I look forward to chatting with you later.